This video is going to take you through the steps of how to get into publish and make edits on the siting report. So the first thing that you are going to do is go ahead and log into your account, and we will then navigate to publish. Once we are inside of publish, we are going to go to the report console. And once inside the report console, we are going to select citing report and then the edit pencil. So once I've selected the edit pencil, I have now been brought into the report configuration console. The first thing I'm going to point out is it's broken down into 3 different sections. And each one of these 3 sections relates to the 3 sections inside of the citing report. So location summary is going to coincide with summary. Location overview map is going to go with overview. And then finally, the report contents is going to go with report areas. So the first screen we are brought into is going to be the summary. And so the summary, again, is going to be relating to this location summary section at the top of the report. The first option that you will have is if you want to show the summary in the report. The default is that it will show. If that's not the case for you, go ahead and toggle that off and have that not displayed. If you do want it displayed, the next step that you have is you can come down here into the fields and you can edit them. Currently, you can see that the visible fields are the fields that are currently inside of our report. So the site name, date, site area, usable area, and location. If we want to take these away, or if we want to add in one of these hidden fields, we can do that by selecting the field, hitting the arrow, and it will then move that option over to the other visible fields category. Our next section is going to be the location overview map. And so I'm going to select overview, and we're going to go through the options for this portion of the report. So first, we always have that option to include this or not include this. Default is going to have it included. Our next is we can select the map type. This is also, we can call this the base map of our picture. So right now it is satellite, but if I want to choose a different background such as hybrid, road map, or terrain, I have those options as well. The next option we have is choosing the scale of the map. Currently it is set to dynamic, which means that Pivot will choose the correct scale that we think would best fit your site. Or you can select static, and the user can choose the height. And below that, you can see that we now have this drop-down option of some different zoom values. If you look in the Help Center, I do have a key for what each one of these values represents. For now, we're going to go ahead and keep it on dynamic. If you use this report, after you've calculated the usable area, you have the option to show it or not show it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and keep my usable area on this report. And then if I have added any site sketch features onto my site, I have that option to include those as well. Lastly is going to be the report areas. The way I think of this report area setup is that we're going to start very high level, starting at what data sets we are interested in. Then we are going to tell Pivot how we want them displayed. And then we're going to tell Pivot what information we want displayed. So this first one, we get to choose the data sets that we want to report on. So currently, all of these data sets over in the report data sets column are ones that are currently in our report. And you can see the summary table underneath the report contents. All of these that are listed are also in my report data sets column. And just like before, if I want to move these from the available data sets to the report data sets or vice versa, I can go ahead and select on a data set, use the arrows to move it over. There is an additional configuration on this page that is available to you. You can notice that our NWI wetland data set, we have one up here, and then we also have NWI wetland 2 down at the bottom of the report data sets. Keep in mind you can report on a data set more than once, and in the fields configuration area that's coming up in a little bit, we can decide which attributes we want associated with each of those data sets. So next we are going to go to the settings. The settings portion of the report area is the one where we get to configure how we want our data sets displayed inside of our report. So if we want to treat all of our data sets the same, we can go ahead and toggle this on, and all of our data sets that we want reported on are all going to be configured alike. I'm not going to do that in this example, but that is a choice. So as you can see, I currently have the electric substations data set selected, and we are going to also compare it side by side to the electric substations in the report area of the report. So if we want to go ahead and show that map under the electric substations category, we have that option to, and just like before, we have the option to change our base map to the hybrid, road map, or terrain. And then same with the scale, we have the choice between dynamic and static. And if you choose static, you can go ahead and choose your zoom level as well. Next, you have the option to show the intersecting data table, and that is in reference to this table that is located underneath of your map. Next is going to be the option to show the legend, and that is referencing the leftmost column inside of the data table. Next, in the inclusions category, you have the option to show the features on the map, either contained or within a buffer around your site. If you select contained, it will only show those features that occur within the boundaries of your site. If you select buffer, you can then give a buffer distance, and not only will it show those features that occur within your site, but also within the boundary of the buffer. And then lastly, you have the option to show the aggregate, which is in reference to the total count, the total length, and the total area. Once you are happy with all of the config settings for the settings portion of the report area, go ahead and move on to the fields. This is referencing all of the fields that you want to include and also customizing those attributes associated with that. Up here at the top, we are going to choose our data set that we would like to customize, and I'm going to select electric substations. You can see currently at this time inside of the report that the pivot subtype and the owner name are the only data set fields that I have displayed, and we know that because they are in the data sets side of this configuration. If I want to add on a couple more, I can go ahead and select those, use the arrows, and move those to the dataset fields. At this point, I'm going to reference some of those data sets that we want to report on twice. So again, I have my NWI wetland and I have my NWI wetland 2. Since I'm going to report on the NWI wetland 2 different times, these are going to appear on 2 different pages of my report. And as an example, for this NWI wetland number 1, I just want to report on the NWI description and the NWI type. For my NWI wetland 2, I would like to report on different attributes than the first category, and I would like to report on feature type, map symbol category, and the publish date. So including a data set twice allows you to customize it 2 different times to meet your needs. I'm now going to move on to the next step, and I'm going to go back to my electric substation so I can still compare it to the report to the left. So now in this bottom section, I have the option to edit the names of my labels, or kind of the headers of my columns. If I want to remove underscores or make sure my text is capitalized, this is the point in time that I can do that. So for example, I went ahead and I took out those underscores out of pivot subtype CD, and I'm also going to take out the underscore under the owner name. The next option you have to customize is going to be the width of your column. Something to keep in mind is that the minimum width you can do is 50 pixels and the maximum that you can do is 500. And so up at this top one, you can see that it's grayed out. And so our symbol is going to be 50 pixels, and that's going to be a default setting that we are not going to edit. But you do have the option to come down here and edit these, or if you don't want to worry about doing the width, go ahead and just let Pivot do it for you. And you can select this fill option and Pivot will give it an appropriate width. So once you have your settings configured, we can come over here to the preview button, open up that PDF that downloaded, and you can see what our report is going to look like inside of the siding console. So all of our columns that we configured, all of the names that we wanted, and then Pivot went ahead and came up with those width that makes sense. So once I am happy with all of my edits that I've done to my siding report, I'm going to go ahead and hit the save button. And now anytime I kick off a siding report inside of the siding console, it is always going to have this setup that we just created.